Now on Face the State, an $86 billion budget now signed by the governor. We'll break down where that money is going and the items pulled from the budget.
It is a parenting issue. Don't wait until January to do this.
This is the new Social Media Parental Notification Act. It could give more power to parents when it comes to their child's social media. Our one-on-one with Ohio's Lieutenant Governor. And more than 700,000 signatures dropped at the state's doorstep. What is next to put abortion access on the November ballot?
Well, very early in the morning on July 4th, I signed into law the state budget. It's a budget that, like our first two budgets, is really an investment in the people of the state of Ohio.
We begin Face the State this Sunday morning with a look at the $86 billion budget plan. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed it, but only after making a long list of vetoed items. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Angela Ann. Tracy is off this morning. Let's talk about some of those line items the governor nixed from that two-year budget. Here are some of the highlights of the 44 items pulled out. The first veto is focused on who has the power to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products. Another veto cut out a provision allowing students to decline vaccines required for college enrollment. And finally, the future of sales tax holidays in Ohio. But top of mind when it comes to investment was education and the future of our growing technology industry.
Ohio businesses need skilled employees, and they need them now. At our career tech centers, students are getting the skills and certifications needed to quickly fill these jobs. One of the things that Lieutenant Governor and I and Fran found, though, as we traveled around the state, more and more kids going into career tech, but we found waiting lists where young people were being literally turned away. And sometimes when they got into they could get into the school, but then they couldn't get the courses they wanted or the area that they wanted to study. This budget provides resources to expand career tech programs and to launch new ones, including a one-time infusion of $200 million to build new facilities and $100 million to purchase the needed equipment.
So let's now talk about some of those vetoes the governor took out. One of them was a second attempt by the GOP-led legislature to prevent local communities from banning the sale of flavored tobacco products, earning him high praise from health advocates. The legislature's proposal would have left that solely up to the state.
Yeah, I would love for the legislature to give me a bill on my desk that, in regard to tobacco as well as vaping, said that in Ohio, we're not going to sell a product that's menthol, and we're not going to sell a product that is any other flavor. I will sign that. Again, look, this is consistent with throughout my career. Back in the United States Senate, I played a major role in trying to, deal with the aftermath of addiction from tobacco, and I was not always successful there. Sometimes we were, but certainly not always. But look, when the issue first came up in regard to are we going to, if you'll remember, in my previous veto, I basically said, look, if we can come up with a statewide ban on flavors, that is the uniformity I would like to see. So, again, that if we can do that and do that with menthol, that would be great.
Another veto included a provision allowing a student to decline vaccines required for enrollment or residence in university dorms.
I think those of you who have followed me through the pandemic would not be surprised by that veto. To take an example, what that basically was saying, that a university that has their housing and maybe 2 or 3 or how many students to a room, couldn't have any kind of requirement that their experts were advising them was very important. So to tie their hands and to subject other students to that seems to me to make absolutely no sense. But again, it's consistent with where I've been throughout the pandemic and the aftermath of it.
DeWine also vetoed a proposed 2-week sales tax holiday in 2024. Another piece of the budget includes an overhaul of the Department of Education. It moves the Ohio Department of Education under the governor's office and limits some powers of the state board. Critics call it a power grab. Here's what the governor had to say.
After watching this for 4 years, it became clear to me that we could better serve children out of one department and one member of the cabinet who every day got up and that's all she was thinking about.
The governor says a transition team is already in place to make that transfer happen smoothly. Governor DeWine also made sure mental health care was a focus of his budget. Reporter Lindsey Buckingham is breaking down those investments.
Organizations like Adams say this new funding for mental health services is a game changer for those struggling. In addition to raising awareness, it's also shining a spotlight on the need for mental health and addiction services. Some key items in the law include increasing reimbursements for providers, increasing mental health access for both kids and adults, and continued support for prevention, crisis, and recovery services.
So this budget has a strong investment for services for children and youth. It has a dedicated funding source for the operations of 988, the crisis line. And it also begins to address the low Medicaid behavioral health reimbursement rates, which will actually allow for a 10% increase in the rates being paid to our providers for the services that they provide. For our state investing the amount of funds that it is in mental health, it's really showing support for that, right? So it's showing it to our entire country.
And for more on the state budget and what it looks like, you can look for our story with our free 10TV News app. You'll find that at 10tv.com. Well, inside the budget is a new law that Ohio government leaders believe will better protect children on social media. It covers everything from social platforms to gaming services. I sat down with the Lieutenant Governor, Jon Husted, to talk about the new set of rules behind this Parental Notification Act. Companies now have up until January to comply. What specifically are you asking these companies to do in the time being?
We're asking them to stop going around parents to reach their children. We're going to say, hey, if the child is under 16, you must get parental notification and permission before that child is allowed to be on your platform. And then additionally, at the moment they sign the child up, that they will be given an easy pathway to set the filters on that so that their child is not seeing anything that they deem inappropriate for their little one.
So are they creating specific new landing pages or check marks on their sites when a teen tries to sign up? It'll have these check marks before they can?
Yes, absolutely. They can do it in any manner that they want, but they have to meet the standard of verification that someone under the age of 16 has parental permission. And then they must provide that landing page to set the filters so that the young people, that the parents can set the hours that they want them to be able to do it. The content moderation like PG-13 or something like that. Any of those standards, they can set them at that time. What
if these social media companies don't comply?
Well, then they'll be held accountable by the state of Ohio. The Attorney General has the ability to bring legal action against them. I'm hopeful that it will never come to that, because Ohio was one of the first states to propose this, but we're not the only state to pass it. Many other states are doing it. These companies are going to have to comply around the country eventually, and we hope that they'll use Ohio as a way to get this right.
A lot of people are saying that this is really a parenting issue and a parenting accountability issue, that the states and governments should not step in. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it is a parenting issue, and the tech companies shouldn't be able to go around the parents. And what we're doing is empowering parents This doesn't ban anything. This just says, hey, when you're signing up, someone under the age of 13, a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old, that you got to ask their parents first if they want that, and then give those parents the ability to, as I say, set the filters. But we hope beyond that. You say it's a parenting issue. It is a parenting issue. Don't wait until January to do this. Look at your child's social media account right now. Do you have the proper filters on that? Are they using it too much? Are you letting them have it in their room alone at night? Things that the experts say you shouldn't do. Because even since we first talked about this, the Surgeon General came out with a report talking about how children, very young children especially, are under great harm. They see great harm coming to them from a social, emotional point of view, mental health, physical health because they're inactive so much, and even academic decline as a result of too much use of social media. Social media can be a nice thing. It can create communities, it can give you all kinds of good information, but it also can be abused and corrosive, and we don't want those things to get out of hand. Look, we've seen children, unfortunately, get caught up in sextortion cases. We've seen them get bullied, all kinds of things that have led to suicide, eating disorders, all kinds of things that are harmful. These filters that you can set on there can prevent those things from happening, can prevent the abuse, and that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to make social media, get parents involved, and make social media a positive aspect of life and not the negative one that it's become.
What happens if after a certain grace period, after January 15th, and we see this parental notification, it takes off, but we're still having similar issues or even worse in a year or two from now? What would you propose next?
Yeah, well, look, this is the starting point. Again, this doesn't ban anything. This is about, hey, parents, you need to give the thumbs up before your child gets on these platforms, and we hope you'll set filters. I don't think this is going to solve all of the ills of social media, but I hope that it's A, getting the conversation going, B, going to get the companies to be more accountable, and that children will be better for it.
Well, this is a big step, and we appreciate that you chose 10 TV to make that first announcement back in February.
Yeah.
When this idea first came about and people started, the buzz started happening. What is this and what's it about? And I think you started that conversation in many homes in Ohio.
Well, I just said, technology's not supposed to run us. We're supposed to run our technology. Don't let it control you.
Tell that to Will Smith and AI Robot, or whatever that movie is called. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining Face the State. And also in state government, the abortion issue back in the spotlight 1 year after the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. An abortion rights group dropped off what will likely be enough signatures to get the issue up for a vote this fall. As 10 TV's Kiana Dyches shows us, nearly 700,000 Ohioans are supporting this move.
Boxes from each of Ohio's 88 counties.
Those boxes are filled with hope and love and dreams of freedom, of bodily autonomy.
Filled with signatures in favor of placing an amendment on the November ballot to make abortion a constitutional right.
As a woman, this issue is critical to my life. It's critical to my family's life.
Lauren Bloveld is chair of Ohioans for Reproductive Freedom. They had to collect 413,000 signatures, which is 10% of the total votes cast in the last governor's race. The group says it dropped off more than 700,000.
After spending millions of dollars, they couldn't even turn in 800,000 or $1 million, which they claimed they were going to do. So underwhelming at best for them today.
Michael Ganadakis is president of Ohio Right to Life. He says the proposed amendment would remove current pro-life laws, including parental consent.
A 14, 15-year-old girl could sidestep their parents. They could have an angry boyfriend. They could be a victim of human trafficking, and mom and dad would never know and force them to have an abortion.
Other anti-abortion rights groups say people are going to vote pro-life in November.
These types of decisions should be left to the legislature, as they have been for the last several decades, and we've always arrived at common sense measures to protect children and women.
Those who support abortion hope these boxes will help women make their own decisions.
Today, we say, never again, not under our watch, not for us, not for our children, not for our families, not for our patients.
Kiana Dyches, 10 TV News.
Well, the state now has 10 days to determine whether these groups met the requirement to formally place abortion rights on the Ohio ballot this November. Recreational marijuana could also be on the ballot. This week, the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol submitted 222,000 signatures for a new proposal. The law would allow adults over 21 to buy, possess, and grow cannabis. The Ohio Department of Commerce would also be authorized to impose a 10% tax on marijuana sales. Secretary of State Frank LaRose will have to verify the signatures before the initiative goes to voters. There is, however, another election coming to Ohio voters in less than a month. The August 8th special election will decide whether to change the threshold for changing the state's constitution. The deadline to register to vote is Monday. Absentee and early in-person voting begins Tuesday, July 11th. And if you want to mail in your absentee ballot, that must be postmarked by August 7th. The following day, August 8th, that's when polls open for the special election, starting at 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night. A Columbus man will now spend life in prison for raping a 10-year-old girl. On Wednesday, Gerson Fuentes pleaded guilty to 2 counts of rape. His plea deal offers him the opportunity for parole. 10 TV's Tara Jabor was in the courtroom for his sentence.
Life in prison, with the possibility of seeing the parole board after 25 years.
Gerson Fuentes sat emotionless as a judge told him his fate for raping a 9-year-old Ohio girl. This morning, Fuentes changed his plea and agreed to the life sentence with the possibility of parole.
The court considers this the worst of the offense.
The judge told the court that the decision was difficult to make and the case would have gone to trial if the family did not make the ask.
The state has been in contact with the mother of the child and that she is not objecting to this plea or to this resolution.
The case became a national talking point after the girl was forced to travel from Ohio to Indiana for an abortion, just days after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and Ohio's ban kicked in. Even the president used the case as an example against the justice's ruling.
Just imagine being that little girl, 10 years old. Does anyone believe that it's Ohio's majority view that that should not be able to be dealt with?
During the hearing, detectives testified about how they learned of the rape, saying the little girl went to the doctor and tests confirmed her pregnancy, and the Columbus police started investigating.
Members of the Columbus Police Department went to the child's residence to obtain DNA samples from the minor child, as well as all males who were living in the home at the time, which included the defendant, Mr. Fuentes, who was the live-in boyfriend of the child's mother.
After Fuentes serves his sentence, he may be deported from the country. Right now, he's not a U.S. citizen.
May have the consequence of deportation, exclusion from the admission to the United States, or denial of naturalization pursuant to the laws of the United States.
Tara Jabor, 10 TV News.
And still ahead here on Face the State, a man accused of stalking and harassing a Colorado woman ignites a debate over free speech. Coming up, we verify if his messages are protected by the First Amendment. Thanks for staying with us here on Face the State. I'm Angela Ann. The Supreme Court recently overturned a conviction of a man accused of stalking and harassing a woman in Colorado. Verify's Ariane Detil answers the question if stalking is protected under the First Amendment.
From 2014 to 2016, Billy Counterman sent hundreds of Facebook messages to a local Colorado musician. Messages that the musician said made her fear for her safety. In 2017, Counterman was found guilty on charges of stalking and harassment and sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. Counterman appealed the verdict, saying his First Amendment right to free speech was violated because he didn't know that the messages were threatening. In June, the Supreme Court agreed and reversed Counterman's conviction. The ruling immediately prompted people on social media to ask if the court's ruling means stalking is now protected under the First Amendment. So let's verify. Our sources are the Supreme Court ruling on Counterman v. Colorado, the Free Speech Center at Middle Tennessee State University, and Clay Calvert, Professor Emeritus of Law at the University of Florida. The First Amendment protects an individual's right to free speech, but it doesn't protect something called a true threat, and that is exactly what this Supreme Court case focuses on. According to the Free Speech Center, a true threat is a statement that is meant to frighten or intimidate someone into believing that they will be seriously harmed. Counterman argued that he didn't know what he was saying was threatening, so it shouldn't be considered a true threat. Instead, it should be considered protected speech. And the court agreed. Under the Supreme Court's new ruling, a prosecutor has to prove to a jury that at least one of the following is true about the person accused of stalking or harassing somebody and the messages they sent. The person intended to make the threat, the person knew the statements could be perceived as threatening, or the statement could be perceived as threatening by a reasonable person. According to University of Florida law professor Clay Calvert, while this ruling doesn't stop prosecutions of stalking cases, it could cause a domino effect, because any defendant in a case involving harmful or threatening speech could claim they didn't know their statements were threatening or being perceived as threatening. So we can verify, no, the Supreme Court did not rule stalking is protected under the First Amendment. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
Ariane, thank you. If you have something you would want us to verify, just email verify@10tv.com. Well, Ohio drivers be warned. The state's new distracted driving law takes full effect in just 3 months. In October, anyone caught on their phone behind the wheel will get a ticket instead of a warning. Now, the State Highway Patrol says so far, news of the law since April seem to be working. And they're hoping to avoid these examples of distracted drivers moving in and out of lanes without even knowing. Troopers say people really need to understand every distracted second can have deadly consequences.
When you take your eyes off the road for just a couple seconds, you're traveling several football fields of distance, depending upon the speed that you're going. So when you're traveling down the interstate at 70 miles per hour and take your eyes off the road for just, a short time, just a matter of seconds, you've traveled a large distance, the length of football field.
Ohio's distracted driving law does have exceptions. Drivers can hold a phone to their ear only during phone conversations, and they can use their phones while stopped at a traffic light or parked on a road during an emergency. Now, 10 TV, along with Maria's Message, have been working hard to stop distracted drivers for years now. Our Dom DeBerry speaks to students all across Ohio to help educate them about the dangers of distracted driving. You can find more information on 10tv.com/Maria's Message. Coming up next.
60% of our children are not ready for kindergarten.
That's not a good number, but the tool you can use to get kids ready to learn for under $10. Welcome back. The countdown is on for the next kindergarten readiness assessment. Next month, Ohio children under the age of 5 will be measured to see if they're ready to go to class. 10 TV's Clay Gordon spoke to one organization helping to prepare the future class of 2037.
School is out, but one organization does not stop during the summer slide.
School districts do that push. They're pretty hard. They're getting the word out. There's a ton of kindergarten preparation work that's happening right now where they're getting kids signed up for kindergarten.
And students have their work cut out this year.
60% of our children are not ready for kindergarten as judged by the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. And the problem is even worse when you look at children of color, where black children, at 73% of them are not ready for kindergarten, and 82% of Latino kids in the county are not ready.
Future Ready Columbus helps students learn through educational wellness resources in the community, but also with these at-home toolkits.
The beauty of it is in its simplicity.
Focused on family engagement.
We are excited about this because these toolkits have gone to serve kids all over the county, and because of their low cost, we've been able to serve a ton of kids throughout the regions, thousands and thousands of kids at this point.
At a cost of $7, Future Ready Columbus helps our youngest future students. And as the recipient of the 10 TV and Tegna Foundation grant, we're hoping they could reach even more.
On behalf of 10 TV and the Tegna Foundation, we want to present you this check for $5,000. We are hoping this goes a very long way in our community and helping out our children. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I so appreciate it. Thanks to 10 TV and the folks at Tegna. We greatly appreciate it. And Angela Pace, I know, who was a very big part of making this happen for us. So thank you all very much. We're excited about this opportunity, and the children and families of Columbus will thank you very much for this. So we appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that was Clay Gordon reporting. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's Face the State. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next Sunday. And remember, if it affects you, your family, and Ohio, we're here to make sure those accountable face the state. Have a good day.